There's another one you don't want to hear. Frankly, if you want.
1, 2, 3, set, go!
Right now on the Power Chord Hour, I'm very stoked to be talking to Ryan 500 of Cincinnati band 500 Miles to Memphis. Ryan is the singer and guitarist of the band, and they're getting ready to release a brand new record, Hard to Love, coming out on Paper and Plastick Records in just a few weeks here. By the time you hear this, will just be coming out. And we're going to talk some new music now with Ryan and get into the new album. Ryan, how are you, man?
I'm great. How are you, Anthony?
Oh, I've been really excited. I've been really looking forward to this. I know you guys have been around for a while, and I mean, I'm still kind of new to your music, but I've been going back through the catalog. What is the new album, Hard to Love? What is this? What number album is this going to be for the band?
Oh man, so this is studio album number 6.
Oh wow!
We've released, it's our 6th full length. We've released some EPs and a couple live albums, but yeah, this is the best one for sure. Don't listen to the old stuff. It's funny you said like, yeah, you guys have been around for a long time. I'm just talking. That is so true to 500, man. Like we're going on almost 20 years old now.
Wow.
And it's very grassroots DIY band, and every label that we've worked with and been signed to has been, DIY underground labels. We've released a few just by ourselves. And as many shows and as many dates that we have played in the last 20 years, we still get that where people are just like, who the hell are you? Like, or whatever, like, or I've heard of you, I've never listened to you. And it's wild because like we've had, a lot of, what I would consider great successes as a DIY band. One of my favorite things is that, one of our first records, like a lot of the songs were used during for X Games, a lot of like extreme sports documentaries, Travis Pastrana documentary. Even like at one point Kid Rock was like boosting us on his thing. And I mean, just to be clear here, I think that's cool. I don't give a shit about Kid Rock, nor do I like his music.
That's still neat.
But it helped. So it's hard to like, well, he did kind of like help us. But, it's one of those things. It's like, oh man, he's really not that cool. But he did kind of help us a little bit. It's just like kind of fighting the hand that feeds you in a way.
Yeah.
So anyway, I digress. It's just, it's been a really wild ride. A lot of ups and downs, mostly downs. Shit, man. It's been a lot of fun. Anyway, sorry, I'm like kind of rambling here.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's what I want to get into. I'm going to talk about the history of the band and like everything. Like I've really, probably the last like month or two, really diving into like your catalog and listening to stuff and like finally checking you out. And I really enjoyed it. Like one of those bands where really it's like, why have I not been listening? I didn't know about you, but I wish I did. Cause it's like, oh, I love this band. Like I've been listening to you for forever now. But what I did kind of get from like looking, it does look like you tour a lot, right? Or like, right now it's probably a little harder, but it seems like throughout the years, like you guys are very much a touring band. Like that's how a lot of people have probably like found you.
Oh yeah, definitely. For us, it's always been about the live show and just, tour. We definitely like care and put a lot of effort into recording records, but like the most time we've ever spent on a record is 2 weeks. Get into the studio, get out immediately, start touring, and like that's kind of like where our heart has always been, is that live show. And we definitely have some core members, but just given the genre that we are, it allows for a lot of different instrumentation and a lot of players to sit in with us. So like there have been tours we've done with full horn sections. There have been tours we've done with like organ, keys, fiddle, banjo.
That's amazing.
Just, like, you name it, and it's a lot of fun. So like, every time, like a lot of towns that we go to, every show they've seen of us has like been a different lineup. Like we're currently still do, like we'll do a straight up bluegrass show, or we'll do like the full band with like 10 pieces. So it keeps it really interesting for us, like the core members. It's a lot of fun, and it's definitely a lot of diversity, just between like, I feel like each year is like kind of like a different stepping stone in whichever direction. Like there were times when we would play like straight up country, and like we were dialing back the punk and diving more into the countryside, and we were like playing dance halls in Texas.
Nice.
And at one point we became the backup band for this country singer that went on to superstardom. I can't mention names, and I don't care to. But like we were touring with Trace Adkins and like shit like that. And
that's like, amazing.
It's so stupid, man. Like I fucking hate that music. I hate that music. I never grew up listening to that music. I don't care about it. I still don't. Like my favorite band growing up was NoFX, and it still currently is NoFX. And it was just such a weird thing. And at that point in our career, it was just about like, we got to put food on the table. We got to freaking eat. And there's a lot of money in this country music thing. So like, let's play some country shows and try to make some cash. But, when that's done, we're going to go back and play the dive bars, like the Milestone, the Triple Rocks, like the punk venues, and do our punk thing. So yeah, it's just been a lot of ups and downs, but man, when you're living in a van with your best friends and you're freaking starving, you're willing to do what it takes to like make a little bit of cash and eat. So we were willing to play some country music, because at that time, like, it was crazy, like how much these venues were paying for this crap.
Oh, I mean, like, I can't blame it. Like, I don't think anyone can fault you. It's like, if you can do that and that's like a way to make some money, it's like totally like go do that. And that's like, it's still kind of like, yeah, it's probably like you said, it's not your cup of tea particularly, but it's like, it's still rad that that's a way you can make money. Like you can still be playing music and be able to do that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And that's why, like, I will never fault a cover band for going out and making some cash. And
oh, hell no.
That's fun. If you can't write songs and you're not interested in original music, but you still like playing guitar and performing, and you can make money doing it, dude, have at it. There's always going to be a market. I mean, there's more of a market for that, really.
Sadly, you're right. You're right.
Yeah. And it's kind of easy to hate on as an original artist, but I try not to, because, man, I've been there, and it's like, I can do this. I can take the easy road and make some cash. Like, I'm going to do that for a bit, just take a breather. And then we'll get back to the punk rock, when the time's right. So we did do that for a few years, and then dove right back into, like our own original material and doing our own stuff. And like I said, we toured as the backup band for this country singer for a bit, and it was fine, but that lasted maybe a year and a half, and then we were right back. We went from Trace Adkins to like a dive bar in St. Louis playing for the bartender.
Back to the punk roots.
Like, yeah, man, it's just such the life of a musician, like everyone goes through it.
People don't realize that, though, I don't think, because like I talking to musicians, I always think that's interesting, because yeah, it's not always like playing arenas and doing that stuff. Like, there's so many working musicians where it's like, you play arena one night, you're playing, like you said, you're playing a dive bar the next night. Like, that definitely exists. It's not all just like one thing, including, I feel like, if you're a touring working musician like yourself.
Yeah. And another thing is, like, there are definitely different tiers of musicians. You have your middle of the road musicians, which is what I consider myself. Like, I'm capable, but I'm not going to blow your socks off with my banjo or guitar playing abilities. And then you have these guys that are like session players that just can show up and improv and play perfect. And they just like, they shred. And those guys and gals stayed busy, and they'll play anywhere as long as they're getting paid, you know? And they may not, most of them don't really write or have an interest in writing, but they can show up and just get the job done and kill. You know, a lot of them are in Nashville. So that's what I was saying. Like when we have like people sit in with us, we usually grab musicians like that you can just send them the album a week before a tour and be like, hey, here's 40 songs, learn this entire set, and maybe they'll listen to it, maybe they won't. You just tell them what key the song's in, and
they can just do it.
They can just play. But I've always felt a little self-conscious because I've always had to work so hard for every note that I play. You know, like when I first started the band, you know, I was 19, and man, I could barely play and sing at the same time. I wasn't confident in writing. I wasn't definitely not confident in my guitar playing. And it just felt like it took so long to get to this spot where I felt comfortable and like comfortable in my own skin as an artist. But then in the meantime, I'm playing with these other players, and it's like, well, these are real musicians. Like, I feel like I don't belong up here. Like I'm a phony. Like, what am I doing? And it took me a long time to get over that. And, you know, I'm 37 now. And I honestly, after all this time, I'm like just now to the point where I'm like, yeah, I'm fine with where I'm at. I'm good.
You're finally like satisfied, like as a like a musician.
Yeah, I got what I need to get the job done. I'm happy with it. You know,
I feel like you'd have to realize
competent enough.
I feel like well, the other thing too is like, I mean, we've already said, like, I mean, you guys, like you said, you've almost been doing this now for 20 years. You're on, yeah. Album 7, did you say, or 6? And I can't remember.
Full length. This is number 6.
So at that point, though, yeah, I feel like, I mean, you found your sound. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like at that point, you're probably, I could see where the satisfaction's there, because it's like, oh, I mean, you've gotten this far, so you had to know, you know what I mean? Like, you had to know something or to kind of get there. So, I mean, that would kind of make sense where, like, at this point, you're like, oh, okay, like, this is good. I have the sound. I know how to do this. Like, I know how to do me and 500 Miles to Memphis.
Yeah. Yeah, man, you hit the nail on the head. Exactly. Like, I knew from the beginning what I wanted it to sound like, and it took me a while to get there, but I always knew in my head what I wanted the vibe of this band to be. And, you know, it definitely took a while to get there. And I don't think we got there truly until about 2007 when we released this album called Sunshine in a Shot Glass, which was, well, I mean, probably still is our biggest album to date so far. But, you know, we got an opportunity to work with like a good producer. It was, well, our first time working with a producer in like a real studio. And he did a great job, and he really taught me a lot. Like, taught me how to sing the right way. Taught me, like, you know, some chords I was playing. It's like, hey, man, that's not even in the scale. Like, what chord are you playing right there? And it's like, I don't know, man. It sounds cool to my ear, you know? And those are some of the creative things you come up with when you don't know what you're doing. You kind of stumble on these, like, really great mistakes. And it's like, no, I do like that. I want to keep that. It might sound grating, but it's part of the thing, you know? And I think when you start learning music theory and getting into, like, really diving into just, well, I get music theory in general, I think you can lose a little bit of that creativity.
You can lose a ton.
And I definitely felt that because there was definitely a time where I was like, all right, we're professional musicians at this point. I need to, like, really buckle down and get better. And I started just, I took some lessons. I mean, I took guitar lessons halfway through my career, just constantly trying to learn something new, a new guitar technique, you know, like the whole Chet Atkins chicken picking style, everything, just running the gamut. And the more I was learning and absorbing, I was kind of like everything from jazz to, you know, blues, country, and because the roots of my guitar playing always came from punk rock, so which is just power chords.
Oh yeah.
And so that's just where I'm comfortable. So then I was having to learn all this other stuff, and once I did, I felt like it maybe kind of took some of the creativity away. So I had to mentally, as you're songwriting, kind of strip that stuff away and just keep it simple, and that I still try to do that. And so this latest album we just finished in my basement, I felt like we did a very good job of keeping it simple, keeping just like the melody in mind, the message, the lyrical message, and just letting it exist at a more simplistic level. And then you can start adding layers on top of that, with like fiddle and steel, piano, horns, stuff like that. But I think it's really got to start with a good song. So I try not to overcomplicate stuff. I mean, not that I'm like, a crazy virtuoso that could overcomplicate even if I wanted, but you know what I'm saying.
Oh, I totally the theory thing and everything. I think you're spot on. I'm no theory like expert, but I took some classes in like community college music theory. But like going through that with friends, like I had friends we'd like play music and shit together, and the further we went in, the more you put those barriers and rules, because that's kind of what theory, they're kind of putting you in that box. It can fuck up your creativity where you no longer are playing in your unique style or anything. You're playing in this real kind of like automated way where it's like, this is how everyone's supposed to like look at music or do this and that. Like an X amount of theory is fine. Like, I mean, knowing note names and the names of strings and shit, like real basic stuff's good, but going too far in, I think can be very detrimental to your creativity musically, like for sure.
Yeah, man. I mean, you can dedicate your life to the craft and become perfect at it, quote unquote. And if that's the case, maybe the symphony orchestra is a good route for that type of musician, and go for it. Like make a killer living doing it, but then I think you have, most of the punk rock community and guys like myself that just self-taught and just doing it for the love of the craft and just the love of the art. And I never intended, everyone wants to be a rock star, like when you're a kid pretending to be Freddie Mercury or something, everyone wants to be a rock star. But when I started this band, dude, I never thought it would ever be a career. I never thought anything other than like, this is fun. This is something I want to do. And that's that. It was just all about the love of the craft. And then we started doing it, and I don't know. It's been a crazy ride. And not that like, it's not one of those like rock stardom rides where like rags to riches or anything like that. It's just like rags to lower middle class musician. And that by itself has been a freaking wild ride.
That's nice, but see, like I think that's where a lot of people would kill to be, because not like there's this not unrealistic. Like there are people who are at a certain level, but it's such a small percentage. The fact that you can make music for a living, even if you're not like getting rich off of it, like I feel like you're in a good spot there. You may not be like the biggest name in music, but you've made a way to make a living. And I mean, there's thousands, if not millions of musicians who could never figure that out, who tried to do that and could never, for whatever reason, figure out how to make that their living, even if it is just that, even if it's not being, a millionaire and just being a working musician. So, I mean, I feel like you're in a pretty good spot. I feel.
I gotta interrupt you there, because that's not me.
Oh,
that
shit.
Was me. Yeah, no, we all have day jobs at this point. Like,
okay.
We all have to have day jobs to make ends meet at this point. But I would say from like 2005 to 2012, 13, I mean, it was just music. Like we didn't have to have jobs. We just played music.
That's a nice run.
And then, yeah, it was not a bad run. And as you get older, you start getting married, having kids. And, real responsibility starts creeping in, and it's like, well, yeah, music's makes enough for me to make a living on my own, but definitely can't do it with kids. So then you got to start, reevaluating, and it's like, all right, well, I can still play like maybe 200 shows a year and work when I'm not on the road. And then, it slowly devolves, and you got to start dialing back the shows to like 100 a year and working and just trying to find jobs that'll work within your tour schedule. And that's pretty much where we are now.
Now that and also I'm sure too, touring has been much harder in recent time. So yeah, I can see that being an issue. But I want to.
Oh my God, man, you aren't
say the least.
And yeah, and I do gotta say though, like, given the fact that we already were starting to work day jobs and just do that and dial back the shows, by the time the pandemic hit, we were okay. Like, we were still able to work, and it's like, well, all of our fucking tours canceled. All the promo on this album is done because we had just released Blessed Be the Damned. We had just released in 2019.
Oh,
and
shit.
then and then
that was very recent.
Yeah, I know. And we were still are in debt from that album because we missed an entire year and a half of touring to pay that debt off, which is what led us to this new album, because it's like, well, we still got to pay that debt off. How are we going to do it if we can't play shows? Well, let's just record our own album DIY in my basement, and by the time the pandemic lifts and we can start playing shows, we'll release this new record that we've put $0 in, and hopefully that'll get us out of this debt. So that's exactly where we are right now. Is we definitely didn't write the album to get out of debt. I mean, I started writing the record because I'm a writer, and that's what I do. And I had all this free time all of a sudden, like everyone else did. And I just buried myself in my basement, updated my studio, and started taking the recording process a little more seriously and just writing, constantly. And before you knew it, we had a record, and we were so proud of it. And I think it means more to us than any other album because, like, we did it ourselves. And like, it's a very near and dear to our heart. And I think it's sonically sounds maybe better than any previous record we've done, but it still has like a lot of grit to it, which I like. I don't know. I really hope that our current fans will dig it. It's definitely a more aggressive album. It's definitely a more political album too.
Yeah, well, the other thing though, I felt like you had a good, going, like, listening to the older stuff, and I did get a chance to listen to the new album. Like, I feel like you have a good balance though. Like, I feel like it is more aggressive, but like there is still that, like, countryside, that kind of like it's not all just straight punk rock. Like, there's still that blend from the other records. You know what I mean? Like, you kind of hit new territory, but it's still 500 miles to Memphis, in my opinion.
Yeah, and our new guitarist Nate Hickey, he was a big fan of the band before he joined, and I think that was like his big point on this record was like, look, it's like people want to hear the 500 sound. It's like, do not forget the train beat. Do not forget, what got you here. It's like, I know you want to do this whole like straight punk thing and you want to like really go into this other direction, but dial it back. It's like, just give me a couple. It's like, give me a couple songs that are just like this vibe. And and he was a big help in songwriting too. Like, me and him met, every Wednesday night for like a year, via Skype, and just had these little songwriting sessions. And he ended up co-writing this song called A Pound of Flesh, which ended up being single number 3. And it's a great song. I'm like, I love it. And it's a very 500 country punk train beat type of song, and which is exactly what he wanted. So anyway, if left to my own devices, I think the album might have gone off the rails. But I think some of the band members kind of reminded me like, hey, let's pull it back. Let's don't forget, don't forget the sound. Yeah,
I could see
nobody wants 500 to be Cannibal Corpse. All right.
Surprise. Oh, that is great. I mean, I could see that though too, because I mean, if you're self-recording and basically self-producing this one, you do have to keep yourself kind of in line because you're also your own producer. You know, you're not someone there kind of going like, oh, you're kind of straying from this sound, you're going to do this. So I mean, I feel like that's probably new too, keeping each other in check. Like all the, even writing via Skype, like I take it you've never written or recorded an album like this ever before.
Never, ever, never. The closest was Blessed Be the Damned, because my bassist lives in Milwaukee. So he and I co-wrote most of that record. And so we would just kind of meet over the phone. I would record stuff, send it to him. He would give me notes, or he would like record stuff on voice memos on his cell phone and send it to me. So like we did kind of do the long distance thing, but the pandemic was definitely different. Because before the, quarantining, like I had never done, video calls. Like I always thought it was weird to FaceTime with someone when you can, I don't know.
I agree with that.
So awkward, but now it's just totally normal. And, like wearing a mask in public is like, I think used to be weird. You'd see people wearing them at airports, in 2019. And now everyone's wearing them, at least, they should be. And it's totally normal. So it's just one of those weird things that's like was totally weird, but now is like
it's like second nature now. It's like you don't even think about it.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, that going to the record too, like you said, this is your first time like recording and stuff. Does this make you want to jump further into recording, or did it go the other way and just makes you want to stay away from the recording, like that part of the recording process?
Oh man, I will tell you right now, unless someone gives me an advance, I will record in my basement for the rest of my life. I loved it.
You enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I've always like dabbled with it, God, even back in early days when some Fruity Loops. You remember Fruity Loops?
I've heard the name, I never used it.
Yeah, just like messing around with some of these weird primitive MIDI controllers back in the day. I always kind of like dabbled in that, and then GarageBand became a thing in like the early aughts, and I always kind of tried to stay up on some of the digital, like the dolls and the technologies. And I've always demoed our records like by myself at my house, and then give it to the band, and then we go into a studio and record it for real. So like I've always had a little bit of experience, but never took it seriously until I had to. And so we started recording and recorded the first few songs, and I was like, guys, I think we can do this ourselves. Like this sounds good. The only thing was that I was concerned with was the drums, because like, man, drums are very hard to get to sound
Yes.
right. Like guitars, yeah, man, you could record guitars and vocals just about freaking anywhere, and EQ them the right way, and like you can make it work. You cannot fake drums.
No.
I mean, unless you're using MIDI. But that was what took the longest. Like we recorded the drums. I took my rig and I went to my drummer's house, and we just set up in his basement and recorded him live. And, we didn't spend a ton of time doing a million takes. Like he learned it ahead of time, and he's such a phenomenal drummer anyway. But he like pretty much knocked out every song in like 3 or 4 takes. And then I took it back to my house and just spent, days editing, getting everything to sound right and crystal clear, because like, I still want the record to sound gnarly, but I want it to still be able to compete on a professional level. Like I don't want you to listen to our record and be like, oh, that's a basement record.
Yeah.
I want you to hear our record and think like, it's a rock band. Sounds good.
Oh yeah. It doesn't sound
that
like a
was the
basement
intent.
recording at all.
Well, thank you for saying that, because I worked on it every day for a year. So again, this kind of goes back to like there's no natural talent in my body or my soul. Like everything I do, I have to work 3 times harder than everyone else. And recording is no different. I mean, I was getting like 3 to 4 hours of sleep a night working on this stuff. Because, during the day I got to work, and then I have kids, and you got to take care of the kids, dinner. And then by the time the kids go down to bed, it's like, all right, I've got from like 8:30 p.m. till 3 a.m. to do music. And that's what I did.
Man, I give you credit because, yeah, you're right. I mean, you have so many other things too going on outside of music. So then to also be writing the songs, recording that, like everything sounds like it's just in band. Like all of you guys are doing this stuff. That is a lot to that's a heavy load to bear. But also big credit to you because like you did what you had to do. You're like, oh, we're kind of in like a shitty situation here with everything. Let's go make our own album. That's like our choice. Like that's what we can do. So, I mean, I give you huge credit for doing that part. And yeah, I was wondering that because like before too, like talking to you, it didn't sound like with like studio wise, like, some people love sitting in the studio and fucking around and like really getting into that. Some people just want to go in, get a record done and get out. So like that's cool that you've gotten into the more technical side of it.
Yeah, we've never spent, when we were doing studio records, we've never spent more than 2 weeks in a studio. Like we're in and out like as quick as possible.
I think being a live band,
honestly, man, every time we go to the studio, like it's not the recording process that takes the longest amount of time. It's like the engineer trying to get the right sound that he wants to get, which is fine. I mean, we've worked with some great engineers. I'm not knocking any of them. They're phenomenal people and talented, but that is what takes the longest. Is like, all right, so the first week is basically just drums. And, you spend hours and hours just trying to get the right kick drum sound and then the right snare sound. And it's like, God, Jesus Christ, fucking shoot me.
That gets tedious as hell.
Oh, man, yeah, it can be brutal. But as far as like the takes and the recording itself, I mean, everyone does, I don't know, 3 or 4 takes and they're in and out. So it's a pretty fast process when you're actually tracking. But yeah, it's just all setup time. It takes forever.
I feel like touring too, that has to your credit too. I feel like the fact that has to help a little too, like the fact that you do tour as much, it's like that has to make you tight and connect in a way where then when you go in studio, like, it's kind of second nature, easier to do because you've been doing it so much. And on top of that, I could also see where being such a live band, you wouldn't want to overdo it in the studio because you want to go replicate that live. Like that's how people are hearing you a lot for like the first time. Like I would imagine you very much want to recreate that and not make it go like you sound totally different from the band on the record versus the band I'm seeing live.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm not tooting our own horn, but I am going to toot my band's horn. We get the compliment all the time that we're better live than we are in studio.
That's a good compliment.
Records.
I feel like that's a better way to be than the other way around. That's a good compliment.
Oh, for sure. But that is 100% my bandmates because they are all, I mean, they're really good musicians, man. Like, me talking about just like having to like work for everything. Those guys carry me. Like, sure, I might be the singer and write the songs, but dude, none of this is possible without them. And they're all like my bassist, Noah. He's one of the best rock and roll bassists I've ever heard in my life. And he's not even a bassist. Like that's not even his first instrument. Like he's a guitarist and a songwriter, and like he has his own band. But for some reason, the bass just like makes sense to him and it clicks. And the day that I heard him play bass, I was like, dude, why are you playing guitar and singing? Like the bass is like second nature to you. What are you doing? And he's like, oh, I don't know, man. It's just only 4 strings. It's like, it's like, it just makes sense. Like, yeah, you need to do that with me. And my drummer, Kevin Hogel, he's kind of a little semi-famous in Newport, Kentucky. When he was 12 years old, he was sneaking out of his house to play. I mean, I don't know how many different bands he was playing in, but he was sneaking out of his house at 12 years old to play with these metal bands because he was like the only drummer in town that could play fast and knew how to do double kick. And he's fucking 12.
That's so sick. That's so fucking cool.
And that's where he comes from. I mean, he was never a punk rock guy. He's always been a metal guy. And then he went off to college, and he went to Morehead State for percussion, and graduated, and he became a percussion teacher, I think at Newport High. And he did that for a bit, and then he immediately just started getting offers and touring with, everyone. And eventually, me and him, we crossed paths, and I knew how fucking killer he was because he was playing in one of my favorite bands called Moth. And I just was like, dude, I know Moth just broke up. I know you're not playing with anyone. Would you please play with me? And he just he learned literally my entire set in one night and showed up the next day to our show and played flawlessly. It was nuts.
That is amazing.
He's been in the band ever since. So anyway, what I'm getting at is all of the guys are the reason that, that we're good live and that we can get in and out of a studio. It's all them, man. It is not me.
Hey, that's not a bad thing to have a strong band behind you at all,
Nah, it's the only reason that I've been able to do all these years, been able to do it. It's all them.
No, that's right. And again, sometimes people can't find that either, to be able to find musicians that you connect with in that way too. You seem, by the sounds of it, you seem like you've been very fortunate with that. Same with even finding talent where you're you can just give these people music overnight and all of a sudden oh yeah, I know it. I can do that flawlessly.
Yeah.
But,
well, and the other thing, and really the most important thing to me, is playing with guys you can get along with, have a beer with, just hang out. Because there have been, I've gone through a lot of lineup changes over the years. Especially in the beginning. And, you jump on tour with someone and you immediately get to know them very well and intimately because you are living on top of each other in a van, just trying to make ends meet and well, when are we eating dinner next? I don't know, dude. We're sleeping on someone's floor tonight and maybe they'll be kind enough to let us have a bowl of cereal. And you really get to know someone when those are the stakes.
I can imagine.
And, a lot of guys aren't into that, which is understandable. Not everyone wants to be poor and, just living for being on tour and playing. Hopefully you make enough gas money to make it to the next gig. A lot of people don't want to live that way. And I get it. It's a bitch.
I would think too. That's also a big part. You can be talented as hell, but if you're an insufferable prick that no one wants to be around, but outside of the hour and a half you're on stage, that's a big problem. That's a big. I would assume, like you were just saying, that is a big part of it. Where it's oh yeah, we got to get along too. We can't just musically kind of connect. There's the other part where we got to actually like each other as well because we're crammed together going around the country.
Absolutely. I think that's 90% of it. If you're in, a DIY original working band, you have to play with guys that you are friends with, if not brothers with, because that's 90% of the battle. It's not learning the songs. Anyone can learn the songs and the parts, but not everyone can learn how to be courteous, respectful, and just a good person. You can't teach that stuff.
Oh, absolutely not. No. And I wanted to also ask you, we're talking, 500 miles to Memphis, but going a little further back for music, was this your first real band, or were you playing in many bands prior to this one?
This is the first band that I have fronted. So I started it when I was 19, but prior to that, I had two bands in high school, neither of which I wrote or, was the singer of. I just played guitar. My first band was Mad Cow and the Lunatic Milkmen. We were 15 years old, and we were all learning our instruments at the same time. And, so it's a garage band. And we wanted so bad to be the Suicide Machines.
Nice.
and failed, but it was fun. And then after that, kind of got into this band called Clyde when I was, I guess, 16, 17-ish. And that was more of like a Radiohead Flaming Lips band.
Oh, nice.
And the guy, the lead singer of that band, he was actually fucking phenomenal songwriter and lyricist. But, you know, just I don't really know why he kind of gave it up. But anyway, so yeah, I graduated high school, moved to Dallas, blah, blah, blah. And then at the age of 19, I started 500. And that's been my only band since.
That's awesome. I mean, the longevity of that is great. I mean, I assume, and I think you kind of said earlier, but yeah, I assume at the beginning of this, you probably didn't think about like being together as long as you have now, or doing as much as you have even.
Man, time is so weird. Like, I can't believe, I guess it's been, see, it started in 2003. So yeah, 18 years now. Wow. So it's so weird. Like, I remember seeing this magazine article in Cincinnati. There's this band called the Snowshoe Crabs. They're a cover band, whatever. Everyone knows them around here. And this magazine article came out. It's like 25 years. And I was like, holy shit, these guys are fucking old. You can't play in a band for 25 years. Jesus. And here I am. It's been 18 years since I read that article, and it's like, oh my God. Yeah, I can see hitting 25 years.
I mean, I don't know if you've thought of it yet, but that would mean next year you will have been in the band as long as you were not in the band in your life, if I'm doing the math correct. If you started in 19 and next year's the 19th year of the band, you've been like in the band as long as you weren't in the band.
I know, dude. It's yeah, right. It's crazy. Dude. And you know, we haven't even touched on the ace up our sleeve, which is David Rhodes Brown. I'm not sure how much research you've done on us, but
I don't know about this.
David Rhodes Brown, he's our steel player, and he's been in the band since 2006. And he's twice my age, and he was in this fucking legendary band called the Warsaw Falcons. And they're kind of, I mean, dude, they were punk in 77, you know, like,
oh, that's awesome. The original.
Actually, oh yeah, man. I think he was actually playing in a punk band in like 75.
Oh, that's awesome.
I mean, you know, he is right at the birth of punk rock. You know, he was there and playing it. And he's this like 7 foot tall cowboy. And he's always been this like fucking Keith Richards rock and roll singer, guitarist fronting this band. And just for a random twist of fate, he started picking up this instrument, the lap steel, and kind of getting into country music and playing old Hank Williams songs. And it was, I don't know, it was the early aughts. There, Hank Williams, it would have been Hank Williams' 90th birthday. I threw the Hank Williams bash. So it was, 500 miles to Memphis and a bunch of local bands playing a tribute show to Hank Williams. And, all week prior to this show, I was getting phone calls from this like old raspy sounding, cigarette smoker. Like this guy's like, hey, my name's David Brown. I want to come play some lap steel at this show, yada, yada. I mean, if you know Dave, he's got the voice. I mean, he sounds like Darth Vader. I mean, his voice is so deep and raspy, and he's just like the coolest fucking guy in the world. But I didn't know him at that point. So I was getting all these voicemails, and I'm like, oh, God, who's this crazy person? What's going to happen? Because if you've ever been to an open mic night, like fucking crazy people just show up to local stuff, and like, you don't know what you're going to get. So I ignored his calls, and come the day of the show, we're setting up on stage, and this 7 foot tall cowboy walks in with a tiny amp and a lap steel case. And he walks right up to me and he's like, "Hey, I'm David Brown. I've been calling you all week about this show. I'm here to play lap steel." And I was like, "Oh, dude, I don't even know you." I'm like, "Yeah, all right, dude. You know, you can play with us, but like I can't speak for anyone else. You know, like the opening acts that are playing. Like if you want to play Hank Williams songs with them, like you gotta ask them. Like I don't know, but you're welcome to play with us. Sure, why not?" Well, anyway, he gets up and you know he plays with one of the bands before us, and it's like, "Oh wow, he actually knows how to play that thing. This is cool." And then we get up and play, and he just kills it. And I'm just like so pumped to have like a steel player playing with us. And I was like, "Hey man, we're gonna play some originals. What do you think about playing some of our shit?" And he's like, "Yeah, lay it on me. What key's it in?" One of those guys. So it's like, all right, cool. It's in the key of G. Let's go. And he killed it. And he was like adding, you know, riffs and stuff that like I hadn't even imagined in my mind. And it all of a sudden in one night, 500 Miles to Memphis like became this sound that, you know, if you go listen to us now, like that's the sound, like loud guitars, steel, you know, loud drums, like that's our thing. And the birth of it was that night. So anyway, after the show, I was like, "Hey man, I'm sorry I didn't answer your calls. I feel like an asshole. Like you are incredible. Would you consider playing with us again?" And like I said, he's like, he's a giant, and he takes his big bear glove hand and puts it on my shoulder and just shakes me. And he's like, "Hell, I'll just join your damn band." I was like, "Awesome, sweet."
Oh, fuck yeah.
And he joined our band. And shortly after that, I was getting phone calls left and right. It's like, "Dude, I heard David Brown join your band." It's like, yeah, he did. How did you know? And how do you know David? Well, I didn't know, but he's this legendary rock and roller that's been in the scene forever and took a shine to us. And, you know, and it's very humbling. You know, because I didn't know him and I felt like an ass. And then I started doing research and I was like, "Oh my God, why the hell is this guy playing with us? Because he's incredible." But, you know, for some reason, he decided to play with us. You know, he's humble himself and he will tell you, it's like, you know, I wasn't really doing anything and I'm older and I just kind of wanted a second shot at doing something different. And, you know, we took him around the country and, you know, because prior to that, he hadn't really ever toured. He just played regional shows. And as great as he was, you know, like he was almost signed to Virgin at one point. He was just one of those cases of like a really phenomenal musician, great songs. He had everything, but just never quite broke and should have.
That's always a bummer when that happens.
It's very sad, man. He's so good. Like his original material, and you can't find it on the internet. It doesn't exist on the internet right now. But if you were to listen to get a hold of some Warsaw Falcon stuff, I'll try to track some down for you.
I'd love to hear it.
Oh my God, man. It is rock and roll as fuck. It is so good. The dude has the best singing voice for rock and roll, period.
Oh, I got to hear this.
Oh my God, dude. He's got like Money Money Bosstones. What's that guy?
Oh, Dickie Barrett?
Yes, he's got a growl.
I like that. I like that a lot.
He's a little more smooth. He can still sing real smooth and pretty. And then when you get to the choruses, it's this loud growl. And it's like, wow. Phenom. Just a rare talent.
Yeah, those musicians, like it does blow my mind, the people who can just walk up on stage with a band that he's never played with before. And just because, I mean, even if you know the song, you've never played it with that handful of people. And then to even just play your originals, just go, yeah, what's the key? Like, I'll improvise. Like, I can make this up. Like, just give me the key and I can just go with it. Like, I will never understand. Like, I am like envious of those kinds of musicians. It's not, it's not something I feel like I can do or have the confidence. Just go, yeah, fuck it. I'll do it. Whatever. And then I'll just join your band too. Like, that sounds good.
Yeah.
This all works for me.
And, you know, still to this day, one of my favorite things is we show up to a venue and, you know, the staff is there. And maybe there's some people mingling around and they wonder, like, who's the old cowboy man, the Marlboro man, basically.
The Marlboro man.
Who is this guy? Like, is he in the band? Like, he gets that question all the time. It's like, are you with the band or are you in the band? He's like, no, I'm in the band. Just because I'm old doesn't mean I can't play. And anyway, so like, I think folks are very intrigued by him when they first see him because he's just a 7 foot tall cowboy. And then he gets on stage and he starts just shredding with us and he steals the show. Like, everyone, like I can see the crowd, like we're playing our songs, doing our thing, and everyone's eyes like half the time are on David. And I don't blame him. But I mean, he's so interesting and he's so much fun to watch.
It makes sense too, because like when you were saying, like I started thinking about some of your songs, and like I do love it because including on like the more fast punk ones, the song for the most part is this like fast punk song going, but layered in there you have this great like fucking steel guitar and shit, like really layered in there in this way that does give it a unique sound. Like, I mean, if you're not, you almost have to listen, like you are hearing it, but if you don't realize it, it blends in so well, you don't even realize, like, this sounds unique, but you don't know why. And it makes sense, like you're describing that, because that sounds just like a lot of those songs. I'm thinking in my head now, I'm like, oh yeah, that is like detrimental, like it's a huge part of your sound. Very, very much.
A lot of times I'll write some riffs for him, and the way he plays it, it kind of sounds like, like a third guitar. So it's not, when people hear the word steel, they think of, Nashville pop country pedal steel. This is an old school straight steel. There's no pedals, and it lends itself very much to like a more blues sound. Obviously like a Hank Williams sound. I mean, literally listen to any Hank Williams song. That's straight steel. And that's what he plays, but he definitely, I mean, he dials up the distortion first off, and then he plays it in a way that it kind of can sound like just a regular guitar if you're not really paying attention. So on our records, it is layered and mixed in very just right with the guitars. It's not like on top of everything. It's layered in there, and it does make an interesting sound. I think one of my favorites, we just released this single called Weight of the World, and it's kind of like a more mid-tempo rock song, and the steel line that he puts on that in the chorus is my favorite work he's ever done.
Nice.
And you really, I think, have to like be listening for it to hear it, but then once you lock in and hear it, you can't listen to anything else. It's so good.
He's done, honestly, like I do, like there's been a few songs that like on, and it wasn't till like second or third listen, but I would listen to it, and that's when I'd start to hear him. You know what I mean? Like you would hear it,
yes.
you would honestly hear it the first couple times, but you don't realize it. And then all of a sudden, like you said, it starts, you can hear it and you start picking it out by itself. Like you're listening to what he's playing. Before you kind of heard it blended in. Now you're like zeroing in on what he's doing. And like, yeah, right. It works so well.
Yeah, and then, also don't forget, like when you're listening and then you finally hear him, it's like, well, shit, also we have fiddle, and we have, like a fucking killer drummer, and, there's good guitarists in the band too. Like there's a lot of cool stuff going on, and it's just so much fun, man. Like I'm probably the luckiest, frontman in the world. It's just been such a blast playing with those guys.
For you, I mean, I know you play both guitar and banjo. Which one is harder to play? I've never really screwed with the banjo, and I've always kind of wondered that. Is one more difficult than the other?
Well, I started on guitar. Guitar is my first instrument. So, banjo, I would say banjo is harder. But it just depends on what you're wanting to do, depends on the genre that you're playing. Like guitar can be harder, and they're just totally different, really. Like they're stringed instruments, they're fretted instruments. But the banjo, if you're finger picking like I do, it is just a totally different, I don't know. I just look at them completely different. But I will say banjo has been harder for me because I just started playing it, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago.
Oh
Started
shit!
playing
Yeah,
it.
you're still pretty new. That's not terribly long, I guess, compared to how long you've been playing guitar.
No, not at all. Because we had, for the most part, in the first 10 years of our career, we would just have banjo players sit in occasionally. And I always loved that instrument and what it added. So I just decided to learn it. And then she was my girlfriend, my wife, but was my girl before we were married, bought me a Deering banjo. And I have not looked back. Like, I still play it almost every single day. Like, it's just such a fun, weird little hillbilly instrument, man. You can do so much with it. One of my good friends, his name is John Pedigo. He's in this band called the O's, and he plays banjo. So, like, I was able to, like, call him up, pick his brain, and kind of, like, get tips from, like, what I would consider a semi-expert, on the instrument. So he was a big help.
That's awesome. That's nice to have, including you jump into something like that. I would think that would be nice to have. You said you do like a finger picking style, right, on banjo?
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
Because I was going to ask, because what I would think would be one of the biggest different things is I feel you have to do different strumming patterns than you would on guitar. Maybe I'm crazy, but like, if I'm thinking of banjo, I feel like you would strum differently. You might not be able to get away with the same way you could play guitar. And maybe I'm totally wrong, but that's kind of what I get from it.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely strum a banjo. A lot of guys play this style called claw hammer, which is you wear. Well, you can usually. Those claw hammer guys will have thicker index fingernails, or you can wear like this giant pick that looks like a fingernail, and you strum down. Basically, you strum down with all 4 of your fingers, and then your thumb can do some maybe some bass walks as much as you can walk a bass on a banjo, but it can act as a little more melody while your fingers are kind of flicking downward, strumming. So that's called claw hammer style, and it's a really interesting sound. I think personally, no offense to anyone out there, I think claw hammer is a little easier than traditional finger picking style. I think finger picking just is more interesting to me. I think it sounds more intricate. It's harder, and it's more traditional bluegrass style that I like, with the flat and scruggs style. I'm sorry, like Scruggs style banjo, I think is the best style of banjo. And that's all finger picking. And it takes a long time to figure out how to do it. But then also, I mean, you can just use a guitar pick and just strum the thing. A lot of people do that.
See, that's always, because it is kind of foreign to me, because I'm like, I look at it, it kind of looks like it is a string instrument shit, but I'm like, I don't know. I'm always so curious about it. So that's very interesting to me to hear that you kind of like go different ways with it and shit. I'll play one sometime, but I wanted. Oh
man, they're fun. They're tuned to open G, so you literally don't even have to do anything.
Oh, you can just play open fucking strings.
Yeah.
Oh damn! I'm just gonna play every song in the key of G.
If you get a slide, oh man, it's so much fun. You can like make a lot of really cool sounds with just a single finger going up and down the neck. It's a lot of fun, man. It's such a weird, like I said, it's such a weird little instrument.
That's rad. I wanted to talk because I feel like you're in a good place for this, just because you're like right on that border of states. But like, what's the local scene like for you there? The one thing, I've only been to Cincinnati once, but that's kind of what I noticed. I feel like there's a lot of other places around there to play. Like you have that city and then a lot of stuff surrounding you.
Well, if you're a touring band, I don't think there's a much better, more centrally located spot than Cincinnati. So, we're not terribly far from going straight up to, say Minneapolis. Like that is really, I mean, you could, if you wanted longer drives, you could just tour straight up. I mean, maybe hit Milwaukee and then jump over to Minneapolis. Like you could get there in 2 days.
Oh, it's not bad at all.
Yeah, and then obviously Chicago is only 5 hours away, and then there's a shitload of college towns: Columbus, Indianapolis, And then going south, I mean, Nashville is a 4-hour drive. And then you have all of Tennessee, like Knoxville, Bristol, Asheville. I mean, everyone's all horny for Asheville these days. And New York City, I think, is 12 hours. So, I mean, it's just so centrally located.
That really is perfect. My God. Like, and I was just thinking
yeah.
of Kentucky and like Indiana and shit. Like, you're right. Like, a lot of stuff, you are not far at all. You can do that shit on a weekend.
Oh, yeah. I forgot Louisville and Lexington. I mean, when we play Louisville and Lexington, we usually drive down, play the show, and drive back home and are in our own beds that night. Fucking Detroit. Detroit's like 3.5 hours. It's awesome. But I think your question was about the local music scene.
Well, it's kind of both though, because like that's kind of how I start. I kind of did that because I asked that, and then I brought that up because it's like you are centrally located in such a good spot.
Well, we were talking about this earlier in Super Drag.
Fuck yeah.
Super Drag's a Knoxville band, and they used to tour State Route 75. Like, that was their bread and butter. I mean, dude, just go from Knoxville straight up 75. You know, you'll hit Lexington and then Cincinnati, and then go from Cincinnati up to Columbus, Detroit, Chicago, Milwaukee. I mean, and then the entire state of Michigan. I mean, there's so much on State Route 75. And then if you want to go south, like Birmingham, and then sorry, Alabama, I'm not being super kind. Birmingham and Tuscaloosa, I love playing Birmingham and Tuscaloosa. Other than that, we haven't really played anywhere else in Alabama, and obviously Atlanta, then down in Florida. But you can just do like a killer tour just on State Route 75, and that's what Super Drag used to do back in the day, and that's it's what a lot of Cincinnati bands do as well.
I mean, that's like a major Midwest tour. Like all those cities you just mentioned, like that's hitting most major markets, I feel like, in the Midwest, like all just on that. That's amazing. Yeah,
in the Midwest. And man, really, that has been the bulk of our touring, has been the Midwest. Like New York, sure, yeah. We've played New York plenty of times, but compared to like Charlotte, North Carolina, we haven't played New York nearly as many times. And then, obviously heading out west it is a little more difficult. You get St. Louis, Kansas City, and, off to Denver. And then you start getting into really long drives in between each gig.
Oh, those desolate states too, where there's like, no, I doubt you're playing much in Wyoming or Montana or shit like that either. There's a lot of places where I doubt there's much to play at.
We played, oh man, I'll never forget this. I think it was Billings, Montana, if I'm not mistaken.
I think that's like the major, that's like, I think the only real major place there. That and Bozeman.
Bozeman!
Was it Bozeman?
No, it was Billings. No, I'm sorry. But we did play Bozeman. It was Billings, and it wasn't even in the town proper. It was like this, this venue was, it was a weird, like, mixture. Like, they took a double wide and stuck it into a barn and just like welded them together. And we rolled up to this venue. I can't even remember the name of it. It was a long time ago. And we rolled up to this venue, and it's like in the middle of nowhere. We're looking at this venue, and we're just like, guys, I am not sure about this. And we almost left because it was just so uncomfortable. Like, have you seen the movie The Green Room?
No.
With Patrick Stewart?
No, I've never seen it.
Oh my God. It's a fairly recent movie. You have to watch it. These kids in a punk band start, they're on their first tour, and they play this skinhead bar in the middle of nowhere, and shit gets wild. And that was what was running through my head when we were at this place in Bozeman, or in Billings. And so anyway, we decided like, screw it, we'll stick around and see what happens. And there's literally we're there to load in. It's like 7 o'clock, I think. And there's literally, the bartender's not even there. No one is there. It's just locked down tight. Well, 8 o'clock rolls around and we're like getting ready to leave. And bartender pulls in, unlocks the door. We load in. We have to set up our own sound, run our own sound. And we're just like, God, well, we've come all this way. We got nothing else to do in this town, so might as well play. And we thought we were just going to end up playing for the bartender. Well, shit, 10 o'clock rolls around, and like the entire town was there. It was one of the best shows we'd ever played. Everyone was super cool, super nice, fucking punk rockers in the middle of nowhere, down to have a good time. And and that was like a lesson for me, is just like, man, as much as we try our best not to judge it, we can't help it sometimes. And I was pleasantly surprised.
Now,
It was one of the best gigs I ever played.
now does this happen? You kind of have me thinking, but like do you notice that when you tour? Like, do you tend to have better receptions? Do you think in like more obscure, smaller areas that don't always get shows? Because I have been, some of the best shows I've seen are in areas where you don't, if you live in a city, you can go to a show every night of the week. Some of these places, like you're talking about, how many people are going to play there?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Cities are, a lot of people are jaded. They've seen everything. They've seen it all. Cities are tough, but yeah, the smaller towns, and that's the thing too, is like a lot of smaller towns just don't have music venues, but the few that do, and they really invest the time and effort that goes into running and operating a venue, which hats off to those people, because that's a crazy business to get in. It really becomes a hub for that community, because like there's not a whole lot else to do if you grew up in a small town. Which I did. I grew up in a really small town. It was actually a dry county, so there were no bars.
Oh,
no music
geez.
scene. There was nothing. And when you have something like that installed in your town, dude, it takes off, and people love it. And it not only is it fun, but it brings, kind of brings some art and culture to these rural kids who, they're starved for shit to do. Like most of them have shitty parks and not great schools, and their nearest neighbor is not even walkable. It's tough growing up in a rural community, man. Like it's you got to get creative with
Fun.
with shit. Yeah, with fun, with shit to do. But I think that's part of the reason that I picked up guitar and started playing music, because I didn't have anything else going on. There was nothing to do.
You could be doing much worse. So yeah, guitar is not a bad thing to pick up. But actually, you know what? As we're speaking of like live music and all this, you guys, by the time this comes out, it'll be happening like a few weeks later. But I know you're doing a record release show. You talk about that for a second for people who might be in the area.
Yeah. So our record release, the album comes out October 22nd. And then our release party is October 23rd at the Southgate House Revival, which you're from Minneapolis, right?
I lived there for a year, yeah, so I'm familiar with it.
Oh, okay. I thought you were from there. Okay. Well, anyway, the Southgate House, I was going to compare it to the Triple Rock Social Club. The Southgate House.
Oh man, I miss Triple Rock, but that I always wanted. Yeah. I wanted to go see the 4th of July there, and I never got to see that or any show there. I was very sad.
Oh man, yeah, what a great venue. Loved playing there. But the Southgate House is similar for us, except Southgate House tends to, they're very eclectic with their music. Sure, they do a lot of punk shows, but they'll do metal shows. They do a lot of country, Americana. Especially in like recent years, I think the Southgate House has become one of the major hubs for Americana music, like across the nation. So it's a very, very famous, well-known venue. It just happens to be in our hometown, so we're very, fortunate. And they've become family to us over the years. They helped launch the band. They gave us our first show.
Oh, nice.
I can't say enough for the community and the owners. Well, the owner currently is Morella. She's been one of our biggest supporters, and we've done every record release party we've had since 2005. We've done at Southgate House. So anyway, this is our home turf, our home venue, and so October 23rd is our record release party there. Our good friend Veronica Grimm is opening, and one of my favorite bands, Night Beast. They're from Dayton, which Dayton's only 45 minutes, if that, away. So yeah, and they're playing as well.
I have not seen the full band. This is how it's been so long. I saw the Night Beast when it was just Nick Testa with an iPod on stage. I've not seen the full band. I would love to see that. The Night Beast rules. I love them. Oh man, that is going to be a good show.
Yeah, they're great.
Oh, that is really cool. And see, that's rad too, because that's an eclectic like lineup. Like Night Beast and 500 Miles to Memphis don't like sound the same, but I feel like that's gonna work. Like that's gonna be a really good show. Like I like the diversity of that.
Yeah, I mean I think anyone that's a fan of 500 is a fan of punk rock. So Night Beast makes sense, but we've also played, with plenty of country bands and rockabilly bands, and I think if you are a fan of 500, your tastes are probably pretty eclectic and maybe lean towards, Americana anyway. So yeah, it definitely works.
You do have a good point.
It also works against us because we're too punk for the country crowd and we're not punk enough for the punk crowd. So it's the worst of both worlds.
You do bring up a good point, like, because I could see that where it's like you have to be kind of open-minded, which if you're going to that show, you are open-minded with music, but that you do bring up a good point because you are a little bit of both. So if you're a holier-than-thou punk who, like, just wants straight punk, you're going to, you might have that. And then if you're just only country and not open-minded about anything else, that could be a thing. So the people who do like your music, yeah, I feel like that is true. They probably like things from all columns. They're not just pure punk rockers or like pure, like country guys or something. It's like you can appreciate just good music basically, if you're into your band.
Yeah. And what I tell people is like, in the end, it's all rock and roll, man. It's loud drums, loud guitars. Yeah, there may be steel and fiddle, but I mean, it's all about songwriting and having a good time. And, it's just a loud rock and roll show. So if you're into that, there you go. Maybe you don't want to listen to our records, but I guarantee you'll have fun at one of our shows.
Oh, hell yeah. And live show, again, it's like, I think, you were talking about earlier, people were like, I like you better live than or you sound better live than on record. That's what I think every band wants. Because the live show, I mean, the album's great, but like, that's you, that's your raw talent. That's you. There's not, you can't do a second take on a song live. That's just you up there, so that's, I don't know, that's very cool. As far as new songs off the new record playing live, what are some new songs that I'll put you on the spot here? What are some songs off new record that you're looking most forward to playing live? There's a few on here where I go, oh, I could see that being a really, like, even just as a crowd, like a really fun one to see live.
Yeah. We've been playing a couple of them live already, just to kind of, get warmed up because you may learn them in practice. But when you actually take it to the stage, that's when like rubber meets the road and it's like, is this going to work? But the one I'm most looking forward to is the one like super weird song on the record. It's called Control Alt Country. And it's the one song on the record that the bandmates let me have, like, all right, you can have this one, do whatever weird bullshit you want to do. But the rest of the record, let's try to, make stuff that people want to listen to. But this one song is my fucking favorite song I've ever written. And it starts kind of, it starts with synth and it's very like 80s horror movie synth. And then it kind of busts into like straight up NoFX and Offspring. And then you get into this big chorus and it is definitely a weird mix. But I think it works and I love it. I'm super proud of it. I'm really looking forward to doing that one live.
That's awesome. Yeah, that is a good song. I feel like it fits in the grand scheme of the album. Like, even if you got to like fuck around and do different things, like I feel like it fits in everything, even with the like experimenting. But again, like I feel like you on this record, you know, still being new to the band, but going through your catalog, it's like, it's still, you know, it's still a 500 Miles to Memphis album, but you can tell you guys have, like, you know, you've progressed, you've done more. You didn't just go, yeah, that's right, like more of the same. You know, you kind of, it seems like whether you challenged yourself or just changed it up, it does seem like you did something different on this album.
Yeah, and you know, not that we're special by any means. I mean, I think every band tries to make every album sound different, and we do as well. You know, I think the very first record we did was just me trying my best to make a cohesive sound, which did not happen. And then our follow-up record was Sunshine in a Shot Glass, which actually was cohesive. And then the album after that was kind of like back into that, which we were talking about. You start learning music theory, learning the instrument you're playing, and then all of a sudden you're in this box. And I think that record is, in my opinion, a total fucking train wreck, because we're pulling out shit like Sgt. Pepper's meets... I don't even know, dude. We were honestly, I think we were at the height of our drug and alcohol abuse on that record. And I just think our brain cells were fried. I mean, I know mine were. And like, you know, we had like big horn sections on some songs, big string sections on others, and like had totally lost the vibe and the sound. But we did get a couple like really solid songs out of that record. I hate that album, but some of our fans, that's their favorite one. It's a fucking weird record. Anyway, after that one, we kind of started to get back to the us and like the core sound, the core group of musicians that are in the band, you know, which is me, Noah, Kevin, and David. Those guys are not founding members of the band, but they've been in, I mean, for 15 years or longer.
It's a long time. That's a long time to be in it.
Yeah, plus or minus 15 years. But that's the band that I've toured with the most and are my brothers. And then Aaron Whalen joined, what year did he join? 2010, I think he joined, or maybe later. But yeah, he's definitely been in for over 10 years. And he's a killer fucking guitarist, and he's a good songwriter and singer in his own right. Like, he's a front man. That's how I met him. He was a front man for this band 6 Nights Alone that we were touring with for a while. And we had lost a guitarist, and he was like, hey, I'll come down and audition. And we were just like, nah, you just join us. You're fine. I know you and I like you, which goes back to that 90% thing. Like, yeah. I know you, I like you. I know you know how to play. So he just jumped in the van, and his first tour was, I mean, like a 2-month tour coast to coast, and he just learned the songs on the way.
Wow, my God. I envy those people. I don't know how you do that.
Yeah, man. I think it probably took him a week to really get solid on it. But, you know, when you're playing the same songs, you know, every night, you eventually learn them. But yeah, he's killer. I fucking love him. I think he's the one last bandmate that I haven't discussed much. Well, you know what? Screw it. Let's keep this train going. Aaron Whalen. He is our lead guitarist. He's been in the band for 10 years. He's from Freeport, Illinois, which, if you know anything about Freeport, it's really close to Rockford, which is home of Cheap Trick.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, their school mascot is the Pretzels, the Freeport Fighting Pretzels.
Fighting Pretzels?
The fucking Fighting Pretzels. That is their mascot. Like, what?
I'm going to have to look up a picture of this fucking thing.
Dude, we were touring through Freeport, and we drove by the high school, and in the middle, painted in the football field, is a giant salted pretzel. I'm like, man, only in the Midwest would this fucking happen. But anyway, so we would, that was where Aaron was from. So we would gig swap and stuff. And he's like, yeah, come play Freeport. they pay an insane amount of money. And again, small town, everyone comes out. So we would play this bowling alley. I mean, I don't know, once every 2 or 3 months. And it was killer every time. We made like some of our best friends ever. We made playing in that town. And, eventually it led to Aaron joining the band. He moved down to our neck of the woods and, really like totally changed the trajectory of his life for us.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. I mean, I started thinking about it and it's like, holy shit, this kid was going to school in Platteville, Wisconsin. He was going to school and he was like 2 months away from graduating and all of a sudden joined our band. And which at the time I didn't know. I thought he had graduated college already. Well, he fucking dropped out 2 months before getting an engineering degree and went on the road with us and never looked back. And he's been in the band ever since. He's my brother. It's been crazy. But yeah, he changed the trajectory of his entire life. Like the day he joined our band. Oh man, you talk about like just forks in the timeline of your life. That was one for him. And yeah, it's very crazy when you sit back and think about it. It's like, man, I started this band and it totally changed this guy's life. I don't know if it was for the better, but it completely changed his life. And now he lives down here and his family's still up in Freeport, which is like, God, 8-9 hour drive away. So the poor guy doesn't really get to see his parents that often.
Jeez. That is dedication too. The fact that, he's in it for the long haul. He definitely is committed to it.
Mm-hmm.
But no, that's cool. I mean, it sounds, you yourself, I think you're a great songwriter. I've been enjoying hearing everything. It sounds like you have a very solid backing, but like not backing band, just your band is really fucking solid by the sounds of it. And that's awesome. I'm excited to hear more. I think people are going to enjoy the new record, which again, if you're listening to this, it's either going to be out in like a week or two, or it's already out, which is coming out on and is this your first release on Paper and Plastic?
This will be our second release on Paper and Plastic, kind of. So in 2019, we released Blessed Be the Damned ourselves, and started touring and promoting. And then like halfway through 2019, I got to meet Vinny and I was talking to him and I was like, hey man, is there any chance, like, you don't have to sign us, we don't have to be on your label, but can you pick us up and throw us through your distribution channel? Like, I'll pay for everything. I just want to use your distro. And he was very receptive and he just was like, nah, fuck it. I like you guys. I'll sign you. And could not have been more excited. First off, to like meet and talk to one of my heroes. But the fact that he liked my music and wanted to put it out, it was very humbling. So I wouldn't say that was like a full release because it had already been released and promoted. And then he picked it up and gave it like a little extra nudge. But this new album coming out this year is the first like full on release that we've done with Paper and Plastic.
That's awesome. It's a great label too. He I feel like he's made one of those labels where I feel like you can kind of trust if something's on it, you can kind of like blindly go and go, oh, I'm probably going to like that band. Like if he signed it, it's probably good. I don't feel like he's just just signing any band left and right. Like I feel there's a quality control to there, which is always nice with labels, because that's always, I love labels like that where you can kind of go like, oh yeah, like I'll always check out what they put out because I know it's going to be good.
Yeah, for sure. And I think especially back in like the late 90s, there were a lot of labels. Like you could be a fan of a label.
Oh, absolutely.
And I don't know if kids these days have that same experience. I don't know. How old are you?
I'm 28.
Okay. Well, so you probably somewhat know what I'm talking about then.
Oh, no. I found a lot of them too. Second, like which I know what you're talking about. And like all my favorite labels were like the 90s ones. And I secondhand would go get like comps and stuff and discover it that way. And you go, holy shit,
Totally.
all these bands are on this label. Like, fuck yeah, I'm going to check
Yeah.
out like everything Asian Man puts out, or fucking like, I mean, any of those punk labels. I mean, Fat Records, I would still say to this day.
Dude, I think they're fucking kings. They've never released anything that I haven't loved.
I would say they may be the only one that is like one of the only ones that still exist where, yeah, you're just kind of like, there's like a handful for me, but I think in general, Fat might be one of the few where I think there's still maybe, I would still think maybe younger generations who are like, oh, fuck yeah, like I'll fuck with anything that's on Fat. Like I'll listen to anything that's put on there.
Yeah, I mean, they recently put out The Last Gang.
Oh, they're a great band. Oh yeah,
oh my god.
Yeah, I play their shit on here the last few years. The one 2018, that one they put out.
I did see. I'd never heard of them until, I don't know, maybe like a month ago.
I think they have a new one coming out. I haven't heard that one.
Okay.
The last one's fucking great.
Yeah. They released a single or something like a month ago, and I heard it and I was like, oh my god, where has this been my whole life? It's fucking incredible. And then I see that it's Fat Records. It's like, fuck, of course it's Fat Records.
Yeah, I love that. There's still like, yeah, that too. Like, it's not just legacy bands. It's not like just bands that have been on there for years. It's like, oh no, they're still getting like fresh talent and like a fresh, like what's currently going on in punk, you know? Like, I think they were successful at not being too jaded or just living off a legacy. Because you can do that too. That's the other thing is you had the legacy of the 90s. You could live off that for the rest of the label's existence if you want to. You could easily do that. But no,
it's just that itch to, continue to be creative and continue that artist's path, and I think those labels like Paper and Plastic and Fat, Deep Elm to a degree, I think those labels are still very much about putting out good art and continuing that push. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said Deep Elm to a degree. Deep Elm, period.
Yeah, they're a solid label.
Yeah.
But no, I do, and that's the thing is like all of them have been around for a while. But yeah, as far as like newer labels, I don't really know many that have like are currently popping up. I mean, Paper and Plastic's still pretty new. I mean, I guess he's been doing that now for, over a decade, I think, but still in the scheme of like Fat and all of those, I would say that's probably the youngest label in all of them. But like, as far as labels very, very recently, yeah, I don't know that exists. I hope it does. Like, I know it did for me, but a lot of it was secondhand anyways, where I kind of looked back and found bands like, oh shit, like, look at, they did everything. Like, everything from this decade was amazing. So I don't know. That's a good question. That I do wonder that. I would love to find that out. And I would
I want, just because we're getting a little bit older, and there's definitely like a generation gap between the 21-year-olds that are coming to our shows and myself. So like, I always kind of wonder, like, are you guys, like, what are you guys listening to? Like, how do you stumble upon, like, how are they engaged with music the way that I was when I was growing up? Because like when I was growing up, like, when you discovered a new band, it was like finding buried treasure, because music was not readily available like it is now. Like, you had to go to a record store, you had to know a friend of a friend that had a mixtape, or whatever. So when you found a band you liked, it was like, that was yours. It was your band, and you put in work and effort to find that band, and now you're going to love that band. Whereas today, it's like, hey, here's everything that's ever been released in the world on a silver platter. Just cast a net and see what comes back. And for independent artists like us, you got to hope the algorithms of fucking Spotify are in your favor. And for us, they are not. Like, Spotify still thinks that we're a goddamn country band. So we aren't getting spins on any of the rock, alternative, or punk playlists. Like, we're still getting lumped in, with, we're not even getting lumped in with Lucero anymore. Like, we're getting lumped in with like bullshit country, which is like,
that's crazy.
I don't fucking get it.
No.
Which, Paper and Plastic, that was one of the first things that he did, is he worked with this distribution, The Orchard. He's worked his butt off trying to get to correct that, because I don't know how it happened, but it fucking happened. So he's been working his butt off to try to like get our ship steered in the right direction.
That's good.
Which I don't know how to do that stuff, man.
I mean, it sucks that you even the like Spotify. You would hope, because that's just the main way I feel like people, consume music now. You would hope they'd have their shit a little more together. So I mean, it's good that you have someone stepping in who knows that shit to kind of like fix it. Because again, like there's elements in there, but no, I would think you would fit much better on the punk playlist and shit. I feel like that's where people are really. I feel like that's where you're gonna find the audience, not the country playlist so much.
Yeah, right, exactly. So I mean, like you get it, but like I was saying earlier, like some of like our older recordings, we've always tried to release different sounding albums, and there are some songs that we've released that are just 100% country, and I think some of those songs people latched onto and got thrown on to like some country playlists. So the algorithm started to recognize us as a country band.
Oh, God. There are some flaws in that fucking algorithm. Man. I fucking hate that algorithm.
God, if you're a country fan and you come to the 500 site and listen to our music, you're going to be disappointed.
Or you know what? Here, I'm gonna flip this though. Silver lining. Maybe you get country fans. You fucking turn them on to punk. That's what we're hoping here. They find you on there.
Sure.
Yeah, you turn that shit around. You go, no. We're gonna help you here. We'll expose you to some good stuff. So hopefully that happens. But
sure, man. Yeah, I hope.
But and I was thinking too, like as we were talking about that, I think like present day comps, I really like for younger people, and I know for me too. YouTube, like kind of even algorithm, like a lot of just recommended videos and random shit is a way I truly think people find bands almost like they used to, like on a comp. Because you'll just kind of hit play on like a YouTube playlist. It'll play one band, then it'll play another band who's kind of like them, like another in that vein. But also, and I want it because you brought up a few things I love talking about. Another thing, you're totally right. You can have all the music now, but you miss something special with that. Having it all at your fingertips and not having to go like fucking scour record stores to find something or get it special ordered or like, just finding that stuff anywhere, that's gratifying. There's something in that you just don't get from like clicking around to a few links and going, oh shit, there's a whole album. Like, there we go. Here it is, I think you appreciate music more that way, which again, it's kind of nice it's gone this way. Like I found so many bands who I probably wouldn't have discovered without the internet just because they were, 20 years before my time or something like that. But like at the same time, it's like, damn, I also love just going to a record store and blindly buying shit out of a dollar bin. And some of it's good and some of it's bad. And there's something about that that's even more gratifying, I think. Because again, you kind of work for it. You go, this looks good. It's $1.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be good. Maybe it won't. Like, who knows? Same with the label thing. You go through those, go, well, fuck, it came from this label. I'll check it out. It's $1. Like, it came on Fat. I've never heard of the band, but it's probably good.
Well, and you bring up a point, too. Like going to your local record store, which is still relevant today, because if you have a good, which, most cities do have at least a good record store. Cincinnati has a couple, one of which is Shake It Records.
It's the only. I love that record store. I bet the only one I've been up there. I love it. And
okay.
Let me tell you, everyone I asked, I've only been in Cincinnati once, but everyone I asked what record stores to go to, first word out of their mouth, Shake It Records. Like I had like four people told me that. I'm like, okay, that's my first stop. I obviously that's where I go, and did not disappoint. Amazing fucking record store.
Well, if your first stop is Shake It, your second stop definitely has to be Everybody's Records, which is equally great, in a different part of town. But anyway, we're lucky enough that we have two. So my point is, I think record stores are still extremely relevant today, not only, to go get vinyl that's hard to get anywhere else. And I personally don't want to buy vinyl online and have it shipped sitting on my front porch baking in the sun all day.
Oh, yeah.
They are absolute tastemakers. They are music nerds as much as I'm a Star Wars nerd, those guys are music nerds, and they know everything about anything you want to know. So if you walk in there and you're just like, hey, I really like, I don't know, name a band. And they'll be like, okay, well, if you like that, then maybe and go down a list. Like, you might like this. You like Super Drag? Maybe you're going to like this, and that. And they always do a good job of like pushing some local bands as well. And like, they're always going to push like underground stuff and stuff that's not in the mainstream, which is, you know, really where the good art lives.
Oh, absolutely.
So I think that's the greatest value of, you know, the record store today is, you know, just asking questions to the people that work there. You know, like, if you're into punk and all you know is Green Day, they're going to be able to help you.
Oh, yeah. Well, the other thing too, if you're working in a record store like that, yeah, like you probably want that. Like, they probably would love someone like a teenager to come up and go, "Hey, I'm getting into like this, like I'm getting into punk, and I know this one band. Where should I go from there?" You probably fucking love it. Like, I get to help this. You know what I mean? Like, I get to like help them find the next step. Like that's so, you know, that's fun on the other side is that as well.
Yeah. Well, like one of the stories that I hear that just like really stuck with me. I don't know if you know this band called the Tillers.
No.
But they're from Cincinnati, but I mean they're pretty big. But they're like a folk bluegrass-ish band, and they're just amazing songwriters. But the lead singer of that band's name's Mike Oberst, and he was talking about Shaken Records in an interview, and he was like, yeah, I was like 16 and I went in and they suggested this comp of, you know, this like traditional folk bluegrass music, and I listened to that record nonstop for years, and it completely changed my life. And, you know, he went from playing in punk bands and mess halls to being like one of the best bluegrass musicians, I think, in the world.
That's amazing. All from again, without that record store.
A record store, yeah.
The importance of that. You really you put a smile on my face because I love record stores. You do. You remind like the magic of it, you know, not to even sound cheesy, but it's like, goddamn, like if you love music, record store is the greatest place. Like, including those independent ones like that. Like, that's my first stop in a city. I want to go to the best record. Like, where are your best record stores? That's where I want to go. Like, where, I don't care if it's a hole in the wall. If they got a good selection, I want to go there. Like, I want to go check it out. Which I'm sure you hit a lot touring.
You would think, but when you're on tour, you're just like, you're bouncing from town to town. You're not really getting to spend much time, you know, seeing the sights. Unless you happen to stay with like a friend that gives you like a quick tour around the town. But no, honestly, I haven't really gotten to spread my wings and check out different record stores. I mean, it's mostly food. It's like, oh man, I'm going to take you to the local cuisine here. We're going to get this XYZ, whatever. Yeah, shit like that. Back to the record store thing. So, and not that Shake It has ever been bad about this, but like as a teenager, you go into a record store and it can be a little intimidating because there are music snobs, you know, and it's like, I'm kind of afraid to ask because they're going to think I'm a stupid kid. And it's like, yeah, maybe you are a stupid kid, but we've all been stupid kids. And if just break the ice, ask, just ask someone that works there. They will be more than happy to help you.
Yeah, you're right. And you're right on both parts. Cause it's like, you can go and some you go, oh yeah, I feel like I'm being judged in here, but it's like, he's got to get over that. They're fucking, they love music as much as you do. They want to help. And not every store is like that anyway, but I do know what you mean. Because, again, it's the same reason why they probably want to help you. If you're working in a record store, you probably like music more than the average person. You know what I mean? Like, you don't just kind of like music. You probably really fucking love it.
Yeah, I don't even think I like music that much. I think those guys like music way more than I do.
Oh man, no, I and you're right. I mean, the importance of record stores, I love them, and it is good. It is good too that they do seem. I mean, hopefully they continue to stick around, but it does seem like even in like 2021, you'd still find good record stores in cities. Like, it's not like a lost thing. Like, you can still go to a place and find a really fucking good one. And I mean, Shake It's been there, I think, I take it forever. I mean, that's
Yeah.
been there for like decades and shit. So it's like, it's great to have something like that to, you can kind of hopefully always depend on it being there. Like I know next time I'm in Cincinnati, it's like, oh yeah, I'll go to Shaker Records. Like, I'm thinking of shit to do, go to Shaker Records. That's like the first, it's my first thought. But yeah.
I would say anyone that's listening to this podcast is probably a music fan and well aware of what we're discussing right now.
Yeah, so hopefully they enjoy, you know what I mean? That's why I like talking about this shit, because you're right. Again, it's like, yeah, you're kind of talking to, I would assume anyone listening to this, is like, I would hope you have interest in music. I mean, if you're listening this long, I would think, you'd like music to some kind of degree. But I fucking love talking about this kind of stuff. And Shake It Records, really good. I gotta try it. What was the other record store you said in Cincinnati?
Everybody's Records, which I believe Everybody's has been around as long.
Oh shit. Okay, so I have to check that out next time I'm there. And anyone listening, if you go up there, those are both two ones to check out. But I mean, man, this has been great. As we close this up, the new record coming out, Hard to Love. Where can people go find the record? Where can they find you guys online? Like all that good stuff. Where can people, they enjoy this now, where do they find you?
Well, when the vinyl comes out early 2022. So when that comes out, you should be able to go to your local record store and pick that up. But in the meantime, it'll be on every streaming platform. If you just want to stream it, you can buy CDs. Like we did print CDs, and there's also a record label up in Chicago called Sexy Baby Records that's releasing it on cassette.
Nice.
Cassette. So we're hitting all the mediums: CD, vinyl, cassette, and then obviously digital streaming. But the best place to go if you want info on us is 500mtm.com. That's got all our stuff, and we run our own merch store. So like if you buy a t-shirt from our website, I literally walk into my garage, grab that t-shirt, pack it up, and mail it to you. Like we don't have fucking people that do this shit for us. We do everything ourselves, and we keep all that money. So when you buy from our website, that's ours. That doesn't go anywhere, and that doesn't touch anyone else's hands but mine and my bandmates.
Awesome. Yeah, DIY as hell. Yeah, go straight to the band and go find all that stuff there. Ryan, this has been great. I've been enjoying this. I hope everyone's been enjoying it. We're going to play some songs off a couple of the singles that are out so far off of Hard to Love, and once that's out, go check out the rest of this stuff. But right now, we're going to play Drop Out to open up the music right here on the Power Chord Hour.
Hey, this is Roger from Less Than Jake, and you're listening to the Power Chord Hour.
Right here on the Power Chord Hour podcast, that was 500 Miles to Memphis with A Pound of Flesh, and before that was 500 Miles to Memphis with Drop Out, both off their upcoming record, Hard to Love. I will tell you, I have heard the whole thing. It is amazing. I love it, and can't wait for the rest of you to hear it. It is out October 22nd on Paper and Plastick Records. Very, very great record label. Vinny has, he's still, fueled by ramen, obviously a lot of huge bands, and he was always really good at signing bands, obviously, and he's still doing that, if you didn't know, with Paper and Plastick, and doing a damn fine job with that. If you couldn't tell, right there, 500 Miles to Memphis, a great band on their roster, which I wish I would. I really did. I've only just started listening to them. I discovered them, I guess it was like late July. I heard that. So really, a few months ago, and absolutely great. I love the band. I'm listening to them a bunch now since doing this interview and during it. Like when I'm getting ready, I'm writing questions and shit. I'll definitely kind of get in that mood where I'll listen to a lot of whoever I'm about to interview. But like with this one, it's like it kind of clicked, and like doing it, I'm like, oh shit, like I haven't stopped since. Like I'm just listening to tons of 500 Miles to Memphis. So I'm very excited for the new record to come out. I hope all of you are as well. Maybe it is out now when you're listening to this, But yeah, it is going to be good stuff. Couple good records that day. Dave McWayne from Big D and the Kids Table, Do Your Art, comes out on the 22nd as well, who we just had on a few weeks ago. So some good records to look forward to at the end of this month coming up. But yeah, I want to thank Ryan again for calling in. That was awesome. I had a blast talking to him about the new record and a whole lot more. I mean, we got into tons of stuff. And I have a feeling that won't be the last time he's on. I mean, when you mesh so well with someone like that and you have such a good time talking to him, definitely don't want that to be the last time. I'm sure you'll hear Ryan on here again sometime. But yeah, really cool. Enjoyed the episode. Hopefully you enjoyed it as much as I did doing it. But that is going to be it for the Power Chord Hour podcast for this week. Thank you so much for checking it out. And if you want to follow us online, we are at Power Chord Hour on Twitter, on Instagram, and Facebook. You can also find us on Spotify. Obviously, you can find the podcast there. Maybe you're listening to it right there, right now. But you can also find the playlist. I put up a new playlist every week from the radio show. So if you don't follow the radio show, which that is new episodes every Friday night, 10 to midnight Eastern on a 107.9 WRFA in Jamestown, New York. But if you don't listen to that, you can still hear all the songs I play on that Spotify playlist. But if you want to check out the radio show, check that out. Like I said, every Friday night. And you can listen to that from anywhere in the world on WRFALP.com. And you can stream the station on there and check out the radio show. New ones every Friday night. 5 years now of doing the radio show. I can't believe that. I can't believe, though, the podcast, we're creeping up there to 2-year anniversary. So wild on both accounts. But yeah, if you want to hear the radio show, you want to follow us on social media, hear our playlist on Spotify, we're all around. Hit me up, powerchordhour@gmail.com. I got free Power Chord Hour stickers for you. Would love to send you some. And if you listen to the radio show too, send me song requests. Let me know what you'd like to hear on the show, and I'll more than likely play it. 99% play it, unless you unless you ask for some Sam, if you ask for Sammy Hagar, I won't tell you to fuck off, but I'll be thinking in my head as I send you a nicer written email. I won't say fuck off, but I might be maybe not that one. But yeah, and that's what you always want to tell people when you're send in your song request. There's a chance I'll tell you to fuck off in my head, but no, hit me up. I would love to play. I would love to play something for you if you listen to the radio show. And yeah, that is it for my spiel. If you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe and rate. Rate and review helps a lot. We have a few on there. We could definitely use some more reviews wherever you listen to your podcast. But I definitely am looking at Apple Podcasts. So I mean, if you want to throw one up there, that would greatly be appreciated. And email me, be like, yo, I reviewed that and everything. And I mean, I'll send you stickers either way. But if you tell me that, I'll probably throw in some extra stickers and maybe throw in some Power Chord Hour guitar picks that I don't really send out anymore. But yeah, that is going to be it until next week. So tune back in next week for another one. But until then, for the Power Chord Hour podcast, I'm Anthony Merchant. Thank you so much for listening.